I'm Diane Zapersky-Qualley, the co-founder of BCAN, the Bladder Cancer Advocacy Network. BCAN has been funding Young Investigator Awards since 2013. The goal of this award is to support the best and brightest early career investigators to make sure they continue to dedicate their energy and expertise to improving the lives of bladder cancer patients. It's my pleasure to introduce the chairs of BCAN's 2023 scientific review groups for the Young Investigator Awards, Dr. Peter Clark and Dr. Sarah Sutka. Thanks so much for joining me. Sarah, why don't we get started with the basic details of these awards?
These are really exciting awards. They are a one-year $75,000 award, and this has increased from the prior years where it was $50,000, which was still incredibly generous for a Young Investigator Award. At the time of submission, we hope that applicants will be within 6 years following the completion of their professional training, and this can be professional training or clinical training, residency, or fellowship. And our applicants do need to be at US or Canadian academic, nonprofit, or governmental institutions. And really, I think it's important to note that this is an incredibly generous award with the goal of supporting science focused on advancing outcomes for patients with urothelial cancer compared to other Young Investigator Awards that are available as people particularly are looking forward to launching their career.
Great, thank you. Peter, BCAN actually provides two different types of Young Investigator Awards. Could you describe for us what we refer to as the traditional Young Investigator Award?
So the traditional award is designed around basically mechanistic science, and it is intended to fund novel, impactful, exciting projects that really get at the heart of the biology and the pathobiology of bladder cancer. Typically, they're lab-based, but they don't absolutely have to be. And the idea is to take things that maybe you couldn't get funded through another avenue. It's helpful to have preliminary data, but even just impactful ideas that are based on a sound hypothesis can do well. So we have last year, or 2 years ago, we awarded one to Ray Kelly, a PhD scientist, who looked at, for example, dissecting the interplay between MAP kinase and PPAR gamma signaling in bladder cancer. And as another example, last year, we funded Brendan Guercio, who examined the associations of patient diet and benefit from immunotherapy in urothelial carcinoma. So you can see right there, those are two very different kinds of studies, but they're both grounded in mechanistic science, both novel, both impactful, both pushing the field forward. So that's really what we're looking for. We get somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 applications a year, and we fund 3. So if you think about that, the statistical odds there are far in excess of what you might get to a lot of funding mechanisms. So this really is a fantastic opportunity for a young person to get out there and really push their science forward.
Terrific, thank you. And Sarah, can you describe, give us more detail about BCAN's Patient-Centered Clinical Research Young Investigator Award?
So the patient-centered clinical research, YIA, is really a unique opportunity specifically developed to promote the innovative science that is focused on advancing clinical initiatives, the types of questions, answering the kinds of questions that are really important to patients. We have a focus on we still have the same measures in terms of demand for innovation, ethics, and science. However, in distinction compared to the traditional YA, which really is more mechanistic, we're looking at the kinds of topics that might be more relevant to patients sort of at the ground level in terms of their experience of the disease and their experience in terms of mitigating toxicities of treatment. We've looked in the past at projects that have been focused on shared decision-making and access to care, as well as quality of care, quality of life, and health disparities. And this is a really unique mechanism because this award is specifically designed to fund the kinds of projects that are actually very challenging to get funded elsewhere. We expect to make one award this year. And just to give some context, in general, it's an extremely exciting award, and we on average review about 7 applications. So it's a great opportunity for someone who is performing this kind of innovative, transformational, clinically oriented research that can't be really found anywhere else.
Thank you. Can you give us an example of what Beacon's funded in the past for the PCCYA?
One tremendous example is the work of Dr. Svetlana Avilova, who we funded in 2021. So Dr. Avilova, when she was a fellow, undertook a project that was a multi-center initiative evaluating describing sexual function impacts in women undergoing radical cystectomy. And this transformational project, the work that she has done, has generated multiple publications and really led to her whole research program, which she now leads at Albany.
Peter, can you give us a brief description of the process involved in the application process and the award process for this?
The request for applications will go out on January 10th, 2023. And then the applications, the actual full applications will be due late February 22nd. And then once those applications have been received, we will assign them to reviewers. On the traditional mechanism, we strive very hard to ensure that they have a breadth of reviewers, including at least one mechanistic scientist and one more clinical scientist, and then a third reviewer as well. And then the review process will go on through March and April. We do expect to get the awards out by about late May, typically. And I think it's important to emphasize that everybody will get feedback. So even if it doesn't happen that you get the award, you will get really important and helpful feedback on your application that could certainly help you in the future with other grants.
Yes, and Beacon does encourage resubmission if the applicant still qualifies. Yes,
absolutely. And so that ability to take that feedback and then feed it back into the grant and then reapply is certainly encouraged, and we've seen that work.
Absolutely, yes. So for each of you, I'll start with you, but based on your experience in chairing the scientific review group for these awards, specifically for the PCCYA, can you describe what Beacon's looking for? Who's the ideal candidate?
Our ideal candidate is someone who has a demonstrated commitment to improving the understanding and treatment of patients with urothelial cancer and expanding our knowledge in this field. We are a bladder cancer focused organization, and that is at the heart of all of this. But it's really important. We're looking for people also who we can help launch their career. So this is an opportunity. There's a personal statement part of the application that's really important. We want to know what your career development plan is and how this award is going to help get you on the path to the discoveries that you anticipate making and the contributions that you want to make during the trajectory of your career. We also really want you to highlight and detail the problem and gap and the knowledge gap that you're focused on, and give us that background. This is a community of folks who are deeply, deeply committed to advancing the science. And we want to know where you see the shortcomings are in our knowledge at this point and how you're going to fill those gaps.
Great. And Peter, can you add to that as well?
Sure. The important critical piece of this in many ways is a mentor-supported grant, and therefore the mentor is also a critical piece of the application. In general, the mentors should be established in the bladder cancer research field. And that's largely because we want to ensure that the scientist has the support to understand bladder cancer, has the lab support. We would obviously like to see also the time and money support as needed by the institution. So having that mentor be a critical part of their training program is really critical to the application, and we do expect to see that. Having said that, we want the application done by the applicant. This is not the case where it should be a copy paste out of some mentor's grant. We really want to see the applicant's words, the applicant's thinking, because that's who we're funding. But the mentor obviously is a critical part of that.
Terrific. So, Peter, do you have any words of advice or encouragement to potential candidates here for applications?
I think Sarah touched on this already, but this grant is an opportunity for you to apply for something that I don't think you can get very easily in any other venue. In general, industry isn't going to fund the kind of things that we're looking to fund. It's extremely challenging for young investigators to get funding through other, like federal mechanisms, for example. So we want your best ideas, and this is the opportunity to put those best ideas forward. I also think that, and Sarah touched on this as well, I believe, this is a tight community. And this grant is an opportunity to become part of that community. And once you're part of that community, we support each other, we look after each other, we are all committed to doing the same thing, you know, advancing the care of our bladder cancer patients. And once you're part of that community, this is a community that you will love to be part of. And this is an avenue by which you can do that.
And Sarah, can you speak to that just briefly, because you have the personal experience because you did receive a Young Investigator Award from Beacon.
Yeah, I don't think I can even begin to put into words the meaning of being a part of this team, and what that means in terms of igniting your research career, but just in terms of making you a better doctor and the opportunities and the doors that it opens. This is truly a cannot miss opportunity for someone who wants to do science in bladder cancer, who wants to start a research program that is founded in solving the problems that affect our patients with urothelial carcinoma. There is no other opportunity out there that is this generous and that's willing to fund these kind of really crucial questions that are so key to our patients. I think that we fund ideas that are incredibly innovative. We have the ability to do that. And that is actually a key priority that is very, very different. So you can come to us with those ideas that are potentially just not going to be supported elsewhere. And then I think that you cannot possibly put a price tag on what it means to join this team. So here's where, as a young investigator, I found collaborators who now are absolutely essential to the support and the care, the work that I do. I found people who have been able to mentor me and support my grant applications to the National Institute of Aging. And I found partners who have helped me develop my clinical program. So I think that, you know, we think of these as I've said it before, but Ignition Awards. This is where you launch. And if you're at all thinking about doing research in bladder cancer, you can't not apply.
Well, thank you for that. I want to end with a comment from one of our young investigators, Dr. Brendan Guercio, who received a Young Investigator Award in 2021, and what it's meant to him. Sometimes it's hard to get funding for the sort of study that we conducted with the Young Investigator funding, as there might be less funding out there from traditional sources like industry and pharmaceutical companies. Having organizations like Beacon that are motivated to really find the answers that are important to patients is something that researchers like me definitely greatly appreciate. Well, I also want to say great thanks to both Sarah and Peter for being part of our wonderful Beacon community and for chairing these very important awards. So thank you all for listening.